So, Simo, is it possible you could have 3 changes from a team that had a good win?
Yeah, it is possible. Yeah, Liam Duggan's unavailable, so there's one. And then we've got Andrew Gaff and Jamie Cripps who are available as well. So it's a possibility.
So what do you weigh up, Adam, when you decide whether they would both come in, wouldn't they, Cripps and Gaff?
I would have thought, in particular Andrew, who's been ready to go for a while. So Jamie's played one game back at waffle level, played 80 minutes or so, looked pretty sharp. He's an important player to us, but we've got a couple of young high half forwards that have put their hand up as well. So there's going to be a good debate at match committee.
Andrew's a pretty level sort of person, but given what he's been through and what he's coming back from, do you say anything to him extra or special this week just to get him ready for what's ahead?
I don't think so. I think his motivation comes from within. He's been in a pretty good space for a long period of time now, so I think he's just ready to play. And he probably doesn't like being the centre of attention when it comes to these things, which not many people would. So I think we'll just let him play and do his thing.
Would Scully be the other one that'd be close to playing, do you think?
Yeah, he played minutes as well, so we need to find a replacement for Liam. Our backline's been pretty consistent for a couple of years now, so I think with Scully in that mix, we haven't had too many changes down there. But Josh Rotham and Frankie Watson have performed really well, and they're ready, so they're waiting for opportunity. And Jackson Nelson's also another who's played that role as well. So once again, that'll be up for discussion. And Scully's coming back from limited pre-season. He had a significant quad cork a number of weeks ago that bled a little bit, so he's over that, and he played some minutes last weekend, a bit like Jamie. So he's available.
What sort of challenge is it going in against your grand final opponents mentally and that?
Mentally, it's not something I'm mentally every week. It's a big challenge, but this team in particular, I mean, they're better than last year in terms of talent and what we've seen with the vision and what we've scouted. They're even tighter with their system. So, in Elliott and Beams and even Moore and these types of players have probably complemented what they had last year. So, yeah, we see them as a side that's improved since last season.
With the job that Will did on Tagoe in the grand final, has that any influence on how you select when you look at it this week?
It's always a challenge and it's a good one for match committee, to what you know versus playing some kids and bringing some youth through. It's a challenge every week for every coach, so finding that balance. We know Scully didn't let us down, in particular last year in the last game of the year. So if he's ready, that's what we need to talk about as well. So we'll work through that this afternoon and we'll tell you tomorrow.
He's pretty good naturally as an athlete, though, Will, isn't he? He was a good runner at school, so he's got some natural gifts that will help him get ready quite quickly.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the conversation. Also, his physicality. His size and height. He can play on talls and smalls as well. So, I think the one thing about Collingwood's front half, they might not be too tall, but they compete well and they can play tall. So, yeah, I don't think we'll be too tall, because I think they've got some decent marking players that can compete really well.
So, and you mentioned Rotham and Watson. Can you talk a bit more about them and sort of what they bring and what's different about them this year to say where they were at last year?
They're young players, so both of them second or third year players now for us. They've developed, played probably 30, 40 games each at waffle level, and they just look like they're ready for opportunity. So pre-season form, the commitment to being a professional athlete, all those things that when we get these players, they're so young, they're babies, they're 17-year-olds, and both of those players seem ready to take the next step. So Frankie will play a higher role, I would have thought, as a high half-back, rebounding defender, and Josh is more of your third tall type of player, so who's got pretty good speed himself. So we'll weigh that up. But that's all part of our development, trying to get some kids through our side. It's been a lot in our front half in recent times, and now it's in our back half we need to talk about.
He looks stronger, Rotham. Looks like he's just...
Yeah.
I mean, they fill out gradually, but he looks like he's gone from a guy that was a bit light to play AFL to a guy who's strong enough to play.
Yeah, the poor bugger's been playing on JK and Jack Darling at intra clubs for the last 3 years, and he's learnt the hard way that he needed to put some weight on and some size. So, having said that, he can play a bit smaller as well. So we're happy with his development. It's just now about getting some opportunity.
So what about their midfield? How do you rate it?
It's pretty good.
Is it a bit scary, and how do you cope with it?
Oh, I wouldn't say scary. I think it's one of their strengths. But when we look at Collingwood, obviously the midfield's they've got a lot of depth in it, but there's only so many spots you can fill. What complements their talent is the way they play in terms of their system and the way they defend and the way they attack. So we think it's more the bigger picture, the total football side of things, than just looking at their raw talent, because there's lots of clubs with raw talent. It's what you do with it, and I think they're in a pretty good space in that area.
You think Taylor Adams will be able to fit in there? I mean, they're trying to get him in, obviously.
Someone's got to get squeezed out, so that's not my problem.
Adam, were you surprised Mason Cox got off?
Oh no, not really. What I'm surprised at is the commentary that's had prior to the appeal. I think the same thing happened with us last year with Nick Nat. Before you get a chance to actually state your case, you got Michael commenting on the situation, which is just unnecessary on a Monday afternoon. So that's probably the disappointing thing from a bigger picture point of view, especially if there's going to be an appeal made, or there is an appeal made. The commentary on it is one way, and then it gets cloudy.
Have you had to seek clarification on what the players can and can't do off the ball with the incidents, James Sicily and Scott Lycett on the weekend?
Yeah, I've made a couple of phone calls, so the clarity's there. So now it's just sticking to the rules and getting close as we can to breaking them without breaking them is probably the challenge for us. Players are pretty smart; they'll work it out. As long as we don't deviate too much and have a knee-jerk reaction now that goes the other way, we can adapt. There's been lots of change this year. I think it's been a fair ask of our players to adapt to all these changes, so I'm not surprised that there's still some teething issues at this time of the year.
Do you feel like a lot was made of the way Lycett and co targeted Max Gawn in round one? Do you feel like what we saw in round two was a bit of a knee-jerk to that?
No. I just think the inconsistencies are there still, so until we get the consistencies with how we adjudicate things, there's going to be some frustration. That's from the players and the umpires. So the umpires are trying to learn as quick as we are. So I think it'll settle is my answer. And some of those issues weren't free kicks. I think the AFL will admit that. So the umpires are human. They make mistakes as well. As long as there's less mistakes made as we go on, we'll be okay.
When you're talking title defence or flag defence, you've spoken a bit about the youth. How much do you have to juggle that youth and experience? I mean, Jamie Cripps puts his hand up to play, but is he not a guarantee to play because of what he's done before? And you've got to blood some kids and give them time? Yeah,
I think that's separate from the title defence conversation. I think the way we operate as a club, we had some really good success last year at playing some younger players and getting some young talent into the side. So if they deserve a game and if the conversation warrants that we back in a kid, I think we're in a good enough space to do that. So having said that, there's a lot of trust with our senior players as well. So it's something we're all striving to do is get the depth of your list to a point where you can have multiple options. So what we did get out of last year is we're happy to back the kids in, and they haven't let us down so far.
And you doubled a team's score, and a good team, you doubled their score off, it was 15 less inside 50s. What does that tell you about the sort of footy you're playing?
Well, this time last week, that was a different conversation after the Brisbane game. So I don't think we've quite established our method yet. I think we've had a good game. We played well. We came up for a really poor game. So, a lot of teams in a similar boat still finding our feet on this season. But there were some signs on the weekend that indicated that we're on the right track. We can't concede 60 inside 50s to 47 this week. We won't win. So we've got to try and clean that up a little bit. That's win the contest, win the stoppages, turnovers. So those things we're working hard to address. But yeah, the fact we had a good win off those numbers is very pleasing, but it's not sustainable and not the way we play. We like a bit more supply than that. So that's something we're definitely working on.
The fact that you're able to do that off that number of entries, and the fact that all your forwards had input, does that point that Allen, Kennedy and Darling can play? That's a viable trio to have up in front.
That's a good battle, that conversation in match committee at the moment, just how the team sits with Oscar coming into the side. It's plus having two rucks it's unique, and we get some time that's going to really work for us. I think we took 20 contested marks last week to 8. Does that stand up every week? Does it change with conditions? What does it mean for Oscar's growth? We think there's a real long-term position for him in our side. Can it work with those other two talls? That's a weekly debate. We probably didn't have that debate as much last year. We had a pretty settled look in the front half, albeit young. So we're working through that. It worked on the weekend, but that doesn't mean it's going to work every week.
You tagged, or effectively you tagged Grundy in the grand final, unless your ruckman were very accountable for him, and you had a run with going to side bottom as well, which worked very well. Do those things?
Please don't ask me if we're going to do that again. I'm not going to tell you if we're going to do it.
What about this one? Okay, let me try it to you a different way. If you do tag a midfielder, is it necessarily still side bottom given what they've had to do in midfield?
Oh, there's lots of people to pick from. One thing is Hutch will be tagging. So I'll put that down. He will be tagging. He won't be running free. The Grundy conversation is interesting because he's an All-Australian ruckman, and I think we've got to put time into opposition rucks, in particular when they're that calibre. So we've been trying to do that for a while, not just with Grundy. So with the system that we've got there won't change too much. You know, we've got two rucks as well. So how does it work with Hickey coming into the side? Something that's new as well. So we're still working through that.
Tackling Collingwood at the MCG previously might have been a little bit daunting heading over there, but knowing you beat them in the grand final, beat them convincingly last year, do you think this group is more prepared now?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I feel like the challenge of playing interstate is always going to be there, and last year we handled it really well, but that doesn't mean we're just going to roll on. So we didn't handle it very well at the Gabba. So we probably don't look at it as an MCG game. We look at it as another interstate game that's an opportunity for us to win away from home. And last year I thought we handled that really well, especially the Victorian travel. I don't think we lost a game in Victoria last year. So it's a new season, it's a new opportunity. The personnel's not too dissimilar, but yeah, I mean we'll have confidence. Like we've got confidence, no doubt. But it's a new challenge for us. So yeah, it's yet to be seen this year.
Mason Cox said today that they're going to sit down this week and watch the grand final for the first time. I think that'll be a positive for them or a negative?
It's a bit late, isn't it? This week, unless they're scouting us. I mean, they do what they want, Mason. But yeah, we're looking at Collingwood last week, the week before, and yeah, I think we've moved on from last year.
And Barras, will he have Cox? Will that be the matchup?
Serious? We've got our back six. They've got their front six. They've got Elliott, who's coming into the forward line. Slightly different setup with the new rules, but no doubt they're a better side than what we confronted last year. We know that for a fact.
Do you think Bucks will have worked out something special for Gov then over the off season?
I don't know. I don't know.
Not expecting anything special.
I think we will always prepare Gov in a way that he might get some attention. That happens most weeks, but sometimes he handles it really well, sometimes he doesn't. So yeah, we'll be prepared.
After that 2015 loss to Hawthorn, do you remember facing them the first time, and do you expect the same?
Yeah, we lost by 50 points the second time we played. So yeah, I don't. To be honest, I haven't really reflected on last year in terms of how did we play last time we played Collingwood, and it's just not what we do. We look at the last couple of games Collingwood have played and what they do. What form are we in? What do we need to get better at? And I just think it's a bit long to be looking at last year or previous times besides this year. So no.